Well guys, thanks for sticking with me. Welcome to part 2. So I got my blade forged out here. I'm still not for sure if I'm going to make it a dagger or a drop point, like a spear point blade, but it'll be a hidden tang blade, and we're going to do something special with the handle. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to mark my center line on the blade, and we're going to go ahead and profile it. Now I didn't forge this as close to shape as I normally do because it's pretty delicate. I didn't want to tear anything. Right now everything looks really good. So let's get a center line marked on it and get it profiled. Alright, I got the profile established. That was pretty easy. It wasn't that far off, and I think we're probably going to go with the dagger. But I'm going to go ahead and clean up the sides, and let's do a test etch and take a look at it. Well, I got the sides cleaned up. I went ahead and just ground it down to 120 real quick, and you got to remember that it's not going to show the pattern as well as it will after the heat treat. But if you can see it, so the line in the center, my weld line, that's a little bit of decarb still on it. I was expecting that. It'll come out as I grind it down thinner. I'm not concerned with it. The welds look good, but I don't know if you can see the pattern in it. It's pretty tight. I may have put too many layers in it, to be honest with you, but should be interesting. So onward and forward. Alright guys, I've been out here a little bit and I got the blade reground. I got a center line marked on both sides to work off of, goes all the way through the tang. I got a piece of walnut to put on for a handle. I believe it's walnut, but we want to do something a little different. So I was playing around with some of the wood that I cut, and I'm liking this charred look. So I charred this and just went over it with a paintbrush, and boy, it glossed up. Looks really interesting. I like it. So I think I'm gonna use that maybe and coat it with epoxy resin. And since we're gonna do some epoxy resin on the handle, let's go ahead and just keep going. When I'm unsupervised, I just keep going. So let's do something with the handle that really knocks it out of the park. Another thing we're going to have to do is, since I made it a dagger, now I'm going to need a guard. I looked around, don't want to get too carried away. I got this piece of railroad track that I cut for a shim in my press, if you remember that from the first video. I think it would work fine, and I can blue it, give it that nice black look to go right on there. I think it'll work for me. So we'll get started on that too. We're back. So I got my center lines marked on the dagger. This X here is where I'm always going to keep this side where my touch mark's going to be from now on. And I'll build the knife from here. But I got my edges, I don't know if you can see them, got a center line on them there, right? So I'm ready to file in some bevels. And we still have to get this piece of railroad spike cut into a guard for this. Alright, I'm not going to bore you guys with the filing that's going to go on. You know how it works from the filing jig video. So I'm going to kick some music on, I'm going to get some bevels filed in, and I will see you guys hopefully in a couple of hours. Well guys, we're back. So it's been about 4 hours actually. I got the bevels filed in like I wanted, but I also got my guard drilled, filed out, and I've got a pretty tight fit on it. So we're not going to work anymore on any of this until after the heat treat. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going to light the forge and we're going to see if it survives the heat treat. So when I was grinding on this and filing on this, can you still see my weld line right there? It's pretty shallow. I actually ground it out up here just to see if I could, and it's gone from about there on up in the tip. But I can still see it. But I don't want to make my blade any thinner before I do the heat treat. So let's just do our heat treat and see if it survives. Well, we survived the quench. There it is. So we need to go temper it in the oven now. I got the knife tempered out. I went ahead and put the guard back on it just to make sure everything fit. It's good and straight. You can see it's perfectly straight actually. I got my bevels established on the filing jig. So where I'm at now is I need to go ahead and start finish grinding my knife. I need to finish grind it all the way up to probably maybe one belt before hand polishing. But I need to get it finished ground, and then I need to go ahead and finish my guard out a little closer. So this knife, I went ahead and went with a theme on it. So I thought I'd make, since I made a dagger, I thought I'd make a nice fighter, okay? Small guard, nice handle. I wanted to do a bunch of different stuff, so I decided to do a coffin style handle on this dagger. I drew one out, cut it out of a piece of paper just to see how it fit in my hand, and I kind of liked it. I may curve it a little, but I put that on a piece of wood, just took a magic marker and went around it. Got my center lines all on it. Now you can see this thing, it's really big right now, which is good because I'm going to rough it in, and then I'm going to make it smaller and smaller a little bit at a time until it fits my hand perfect and the perspective looks good. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and burn it and epoxy it in so it will hopefully look something like this. This was a test piece I did, a nice char. I'm giving the whole thing a theme. It's a fighter. Everything's going to be blacked out. The only light colors in it will be the Damascus and the blade, so stay away from the light. But where we're at now, I'm going to need to knock the guard off this, and I need to start finish grinding this. I don't want to put you guys through an hour of finish grinding on this video. Watching that to me gets boring. You know how it works. You're just going to have to practice it and develop your own techniques. I'm happy to answer any questions or help in any way I can. But for me, I go by feel. I've established my bevels on here. I can feel that flat on the belt. I can continue that bevel. It gives me a good start, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start doing some finish grinding, and we'll be back. Okay, I got the knife ground up to a 120 grit belt. Looks pretty good. I got a center line here on the handle that I've worked because I went ahead and cut my handle out on a bandsaw. It's still really thick. Got my guard here. So the guard's going to go on, and the handle. So the handle's out of proportion right now. I left it oversized so I can actually work it into proportion and work it into a good fit. But next step will be work the guard, get it shaped, roughed in the way I wanted so I can get my hole in my handle for the hidden tang, and then we would be moving on from there. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but my center ridge, it's got a couple little squirrely movements in it, not anything bad. I will take these out whenever I go to the 220 belt and finalize it with the 320 belt, and then I will start the hand sanding and we'll make it right on the money. Well guys, I got the guard kind of roughed in, so all I did, I just come in on either side, measured, did a center punch mark, and drilled it. You can actually still see where the drill went through there and there, but I drilled it and I took a cutoff wheel and I just went ahead and cut out the pieces. It's just much faster that way. So that fits on my knife. I've got my face marked so I always know which direction it goes on. It fits nice and tight. There's no gaps, which there may end up with some gaps as I continue to polish this finer. We're hoping not, but we'll see. But so I got the guard roughed in. I got it marked here on my handle, if I can hold this where you can see it. Handle's really oversized, yeah, I know. But where I'm at right now is I think I'm ready to get a hole in my handle for this hidden tang, and then I can fit it up actually and start making it comfortable and in proportion. Got my guard pretty much like I want it. It looks pretty good, feels pretty comfortable. My handle, I went ahead and got it shaped like I want. It's got a good feel. It's just a touch small in the hand. Okay, so that's important. So I wanted to do a char. Can you see how this is inset about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around right here? So I'm going to char this, and then I'm going to encase it in resin. I'm going to pour resin over it, and I need to build up that resin thick enough that when I sand this all to fit, I don't hit the char, because if I hit the char, it will ruin the effect. It will expose brown wood, and this is not what I want, and I won't be able to char it again because it'll have resin on it. So this is kind of a, you know, it's an experimentation, but we're just going to see what happens. But I guess I'm ready to char the handle. What do you think? Nice alligator char on that. So now I got to coat it in resin, first coat. So let me mix up some resin and see how we can figure out how to pour it. So here's how I'm going to hold it. I got me a popsicle stick. I got it, the hole taped up so it won't leak. I can set it in my vise. Set it up like this. This will catch my excess and the rest will drain off, and I'll get an even coat. So I got some different resin this time. This is coating resin instead of casting resin. So it says 8 to 12 hours between coats. We'll just see how that goes. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little on here. I got a nice super soft paintbrush. I'm going to make sure it gets down in all the cracks. And then I will probably set this in my vise and pour over it. And we'll see if we need to put a little heat to pop any bubbles. Just so you guys know where I'm at, it's 10:30 at night. I'm gonna mix up a little bit more resin and put another coat on the handle. Well, good morning. It's about 10 after 7 in the morning, and I'm mixing up more resin. I'm gonna get another coat on it. I don't know how many coats it's gonna take. I can put all I want, but I have to get it right, so. Well, guys, it's been a day or two. I haven't been doing some recording because you guys have seen me hand sand blades and all that. So I just avoided all that for you guys. The video's already long enough. But I got my blade hand sanded, etched, and you don't get to see it. I got my guard polished up, ready to blue. I got my handle almost right where I want it, right where I'm at right now. Oh, and I also I'm going to put a cross and brass pins in the handle. You really can't see that char under there, but it looks pretty cool. We'll get a better picture later. But where I'm at. So I think I'm ready to blue the guard. I think I'm ready to glue my handle on. You notice I got 4 pins from that cross. 4 pins in this guard and in this tang. But I think I'm ready to glue that on, pin it, let it dry, and then I will file down my pins, and there will be spots of this epoxy that I'm going to touch. So I'm at an impasse. Do I sand the whole thing with 120 and then take a nice fine brush and paint a final coat on here, or do I buff it? We'll just do some experimenting and see which direction I go. But I'm running out of time on this, and I need it to set a week and cure before I go to this knife show. It's dry, but I ain't sure that you couldn't still maybe leave a fingernail print in it, but it's dry enough for me to sand and paint a final coat. So let's get it, let's get the guard blued up. Let's get the handle glued on, the pins in it, and let that cure and go from there. Pretty good. There's the guard, blued up, fit back on. So I'm ready to glue up. So this is drove on. This is actually press fit on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this space on either side here with epoxy. And then I'm going to fill this with epoxy. I'm going to slide this on. I'm going to put my 4 pins in, and we're going to let it cure out. Ready? Me too. All right, guys, it's done. So we'll look at it real quick in here. I'll tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it. And, you know, all I can say is it is what it is. So here's my handle. Might be a little dust on it. So I got a cross in it, brass pins. You can't really see the char in here. We're going to go outside in just a minute and look at it under a different light. But there's my blade. So you can still see my weld line here, a little bit of carburization, I think is what they call it on the blade. I could grind a little fuller in that and get rid of it, along with, can you see this little black line right here? So this is not a crack, this is my weld line. So what I don't like about this blade, I should have left it about a 1/2 inch thick when I forge welded it together, maybe a little over. I think I would have been better off, and I could have mashed it together. I should have ground it real quick and then continued on forge welding to get rid of a little bit of this steel. So I forged this blade pretty thin when I forged it, and it didn't leave me enough steel to leave a good high ridge in it, which is what I wanted to do. Now there is a good high ridge in it, and that is why you can see that carburization and that little bit of weld line on there. So I tested this knife. I was worried about it the whole time. I did some chopping and beating with a dagger, but it didn't have any issues whatsoever. I also, you can see how that line right there and right there, where the two bars was welded together. Back here, it even looked worse than that, and I just did some drilling and a little bit of grinding just to see how deep it was, and it's very shallow. I ground it out real easy in here, and like I said, I could probably, if it bothers me that bad, I could probably come in here and put a tiny little fuller in the blade and it would be gone. But I'm happy with it. It was a little bit of a pain in my butt, made some mistakes, but I'm very happy with it. So the blade's 95 layers on each side, twisted in opposing directions. Another thing that I don't really like about this blade is too many twists. I've done too few twists before and said, oh man, I'm gonna do more and more twists. For the length that I had here, I did 20 twists, I believe it was, in 4.5 or 5 inch bars of steel. That's a lot, and that is why I really am not getting the direction on the twists, but I am getting the 95 layers. Okay, so I'm going to set the phone up and we're going to look at something else. Okay, so do you remember back when I said I was hoping some little stars would show up in kind of a pattern? So if you look right here, you can see this silver 4-pointed star right here. So that would be 15 and 20. That would be one of the doubled up layers of the 15 and 20. Okay, and if you look right here, this would be one of the last layers of the 1095 that I added into it. So I was hoping to get some more stars in this. Let's just look down the blade. So you can see there are a few coming up, right? You can really see the amount of layers that's in there. So I kind of like this one. So this is kind of unusual. We've got the 15 and 20 shining strong, 15 and 20 shining strong, and then over here there's an oddball one right there. So that's kind of cool. Nice little whirlpools and rivers in the center of the blade. Let's turn it over. Alright. I like the yin yang right here. So what I was talking about, this forge line right here, it's very, very shallow. I have no issues with it whatsoever. So there's a 1095 star, 1095 star, 15 and 20 star. Interesting pattern. You can actually see, where am I at? You can actually see right here I got my layers lined up exactly. But because I drew it out by hand, they change up really quick. But if I was to do this over again, I would probably do about half as many layers and about half as many twists. but I'm really not complaining. And I'm going to step outside here and see if I can't show you the char in this blade. Step around here, try to get, can you see it in there? Forgive my shaking, I'm old. How about that? What do you think? Pretty nice? Ignore the dust on it, I still have to polish it. I like it. I think the cross turned out really well. The char is very visible under the light. The blade turned out nice. Well, there it is, guys. We're going to call it done. So in about a week, when this cures out, I will do a final buffing on this right before the show. But 95 layer, opposing twist, Damascus dagger. I believe it's about 7.5 inch blade. Charred walnut handle, brass cross, 4 pins through the tang of the knife. Blued mild steel guard. So I had a blast making it. Made some mistakes, learned from them, I hope, and we'll try to put them to use on the next one. So guys, I appreciate it. I make these videos trying to help people out. I appreciate all the people subscribing. Share it with your friends. You know, if you have any questions, hit me up, send me a message, whatever. We'll see if we can't answer them or make a video on them. Appreciate it.